5 years of the KU Retirees Club. Before the construction of this building began, about 1981, Mr. Raymond Nichols enlisted a committee to help him plan the organization that would use and enjoy the space provided on the first floor. Mr. Nichols himself was the chairperson. Other members of the committee were Vita Gibson, Elizabeth Lawson, who's with us today, Lena Stranathan, Byron Leonard, Larry Heave, Henry and Catherine Schenck, William and Shirley Griffith, Thomas and Catherine Gordon, and Corley and myself. This committee considered all the details of a formal organization such as name, eligibility for membership, officers, and constitution and bylaws. Eventually, the committee's plans were submitted to all of the retired faculty at a meeting held in the Birds Union. The name chosen for the new organization was the KU Retirees Club, and Mr. Nichols was elected president for the first year, 1983-1984. There was now space in a building and an organization, but nobody was quite sure what a retirees club was supposed to do. Mr. Nichols began by telephoning members of his original committee and others to invite them to join him for a morning coffee at the center. About a dozen came. They enjoyed pleasant conversation over tea and coffee in the small room which contains the vending machines on the other side of the corridor right here. The coffee found favor, and soon coffees were held weekly. Mr. Nichols was elected president for a second term, 1984-1985. Mr. Nichols initiated the club's oral history project. The object of this project is to supplement other histories of the university with accounts of experiences, frequently unique, of each retired member of the faculty. The record of an interview recorded on a tape recorder is typed and presented to the interviewee, who has an opportunity to edit the written version. Mr. Nichols saw the importance of this project for the university, and his vision, persistence, and personal involvement are responsible for its early success and continuation. More recently, the devoted efforts of Calder Pickett have added greatly to its progress. There are now more than 222. We counted them about 2 weeks ago, and there were 222, but some more have been added since then. So what I can say is there are now more than 222 bound interviews on the shelves of the club's library, with copies in the archives of Spencer Research Library. Mr. Nichols sought the assistance of Betty Marslow in planning an extended program of activities for the club. Joseph Marslow was president for 2 terms, 1985, 1987, and Shirley Griffith was in charge of social activities during his second term. These four, Raymond Nichols, Joe and Betty Marslow, and Shirley Griffith, with help from others, set the basic pattern of activities during Joe Marslow's second term. These activities included the following: weekly coffees each Wednesday at 10 o'clock. The attendance had grown so large that it was necessary to move from a small room to the lounge down the corridor. Monthly birthday parties, pre-concert dinners, 2 potluck dinners each year, several bridge parties, group travel, and group discussions of national issues. Shirley Griffith added that year a reception for new retirees to acquaint them with the club and to encourage them to become members. Also, during Joe Marslow's second term, John Langley mailed to members 4x6 cards containing announcements of future events. When I became president in 1987, John Langley asked to be relieved of mailing his card announcements. I took this opportunity to replace his cards by full-grown newsletters, which were printed at the KU print shop and mailed. Also, I expanded the special interest groups. A bird watching group was active. It made a trip to Nebraska to see the sandhill cranes. Next, Phyllis Jones organized a writers group, which continued to be active for about 5 years. Probably the most important of the special interest groups which I organized during 1987-1988 was the computer group. As specified by Mr. Endacott's plans for the first floor, a crafts room had been built on the south side behind the billiard and games room across the corridor over here. But members of the Retirees Club had not used the crafts room because those interested in this activity had workshops in their own homes. I was sure there were members of the club who had an interest in computers, and I took steps to purchase a computer and to convert the craft room into the club's computer room. Because I failed to find a leader for this activity in the beginning, I got things started myself. The Birds Union bookstore lent us a Macintosh computer and a printer for a month. I didn't believe they would do that, but Jerry Niebaum encouraged me to ask. And demonstrations of its operation soon attracted an interested group. By good fortune, Dr. A.N. Lemoyne, a retired ophthalmologist from the KU Medical Center, gave the club $2,000 toward the purchase of a computer. This gift was one of the major expressions of appreciation in the early history of the club. The computer group that had formed by that time purchased a Zenith computer. After I had learned the Macintosh, they bought a different kind. But they felt that the Zenith was much more suitable for the club than the Macintosh, and I agreed. The computer group continues to be strong and active. It has bought more computers and other equipment, and it has turned Mr. Endacott's crafts room into a real computer laboratory. You should look in if you haven't done so recently. In the spring of 1988, the club held a reception with an open house to unveil its new computer and to thank its benefactors. Paul and Lucille Endacott and Mildred Moore, Mrs. Endacott's sister, came from Bartlesville, and Laura Endacott, Mr. Endacott's sister-in-law, came from Lawrence to attend the festivities associated with the open house. They were present at a Wednesday morning coffee, and they enjoyed the music hour which followed. The officers took them to lunch at the Learning Club. At the open house, they saw the new computer, and they were greeted and thanked by the members of the club who came to the reception. Next, the club entertained them at a pre-concert dinner. Kodak pictures made at the dinner show that it was a happy occasion. Finally, the president and his wife took them to the concert in Hoke Auditorium. The club in all of these activities tried to express to Mr. and Mrs. Endacott their appreciation for all they have done for us.